Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Manager Podcast, where we reframe the invisible work of women as powerful leadership. I'm your host, Amy Rickabus, author of The Manager, entrepreneur, and mama of six. Today's guest is someone I met about a year ago on a Viva Women's Roundtable hosted by our mutual friend, Midori Verity. Right away, we connected over our shared experience as women in tech, moms of young kids, and creators with a systems mindset. She even bought a copy of The Manager. We're diving into the kind of real-life leadership the book celebrates. Alyssa Nolte is the CEO of TruVue, host of The Growth Signal and Taking Back Monday, and what I like to call an accidental entrepreneur. She went from coaching a high school dance team to launching multiple tech ventures, all while staying grounded, curious, and really funny. If you've ever wondered if you're qualified enough to build something bold, or doubted whether motherhood and leadership can truly coexist, this episode is for you. Alyssa Nolte, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so happy to have you today. Thank you so much for coming on. It's nice to see you again.
Yes, it's so good to see you as well.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been almost a year. Can
God,
you believe
it's
it?
amazing how time goes because it just feels like yesterday that we met on that roundtable and a bunch of total strangers from across the world find things in common, right?
I know, isn't that wild? I know that was a really cool thing that Midori did to have those roundtables. That's actually how I found my publisher for my book.
Oh, that's wild. I found a
Yeah.
couple podcast guests from that roundtable, and then of course it's just smart women doing incredible things, and that's another one of the reasons why I was so excited when you reached out to join you on the show today.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so happy to have you. Thank you so much for joining me. So you call yourself an accidental entrepreneur. Can you take us back to that first leap when you said yes to startup life when everyone else was saying no, thank you?
I really had no intention. Like, I thought for sure that I was going to get a normal corporate job. I was going to go work for some company with a brand name that you've all heard of, and I was going to climb the corporate ladder in that traditional path. I had kind of explored grad school, maybe getting my MBA right out of college. And I always joke if I'm ever going to give like a graduation speech, it's going to be something to the effect of why you should take an unpaid full-time job right out of college. It's probably not going to be very popular with the people in the audience, but that's kind of what I did. I had real offers. I could have done that corporate path, but there was this startup that was pre-revenue, just getting started, didn't have a client to speak of, and there was just something about it that made me excited. And the idea that I would get to do something that if I showed up to work, things would happen. And if I didn't show up, nothing would happen. And that really excited me that my everyday would actually mean something and would matter.
Yeah, you're so right. In a startup, you push the needle. Every individual that's involved in a startup really gets to push the needle for the company. Where in a way, when you're working with a larger corporation, you don't get to see what you do, how your work affects the overall organization as a whole as much.
Yeah, it's a lot
There's that.
easier to draw
Yeah.
that connection in a startup. Not to say that people who work in corporate roles don't move
Yeah.
the needle,
Sure.
but it's hard to connect yourself and your work to the overall success of the company because there's just more factors at play, right?
Yes.
And the excitement for me of figuring out, okay, we've never sold anything at the startup. Okay, how do we get our first deal? Okay, how do
Yeah.
we present our value proposition? How do we negotiate on price? Okay, what does contracts look like? And now that we've, caught the car, what do we actually do now that we've convinced someone to hire us? And all of that, I discovered I loved the thrill of the solve and figuring
Mhm.
out what is the thing that's in front of us? How can we systematically break it down and kind of punch through that barrier and then on to the next?
Yeah, that is so cool. And once you get used to that feeling, it's my husband and I say you become unhireable because you're kind of hooked on, I think you
Yeah.
start, you
I don't
get
want to
hooked
say
to
I'm
that.
unhireable, but I am 100% unhireable. I'm a great contractor. I'm a great freelancer. I'm a great
Yes.
consultant. We got acquired in 2020. And I worked at that company for 3 years and it was just hard. I wasn't used to having to have someone else approve my decisions or report up to anyone. So it
Right.
definitely was a chafing experience for me. And I discovered I needed to just be out on my own. And with all the risk and excitement that involved.
I feel you. I come from a family of deal junkies. My mom was an entrepreneur. You probably, if you skim through my book, you would know she's very much influenced my life in a big way. You once you get hooked on the the hunt and the deal and the feeling of entrepreneurship, it's hard to go back.
It really is, for sure.
So tell me, I'm obsessed with this Form Dash origin story. So how did you go from a volunteer coaching gig
Yeah.
to leading a tech solution?
So I was volunteering with a local high school dance team. And anybody who is
The
familiar with dance or gymnastics or cheer, any of those sports that have a lot of expenses attached to them, it's really expensive to be a part of that team. Most teams spend anywhere from $2,000 per kid on the low side, to $5,000 per kid normally, just depending on how competitive that team is. And so I remember hosting a fundraiser, and we had gotten invited to perform at the halftime of a bowl game. So we were fundraising for flights and travel and going down to do this halftime performance, which was really, really exciting, but it was really expensive. So I remember on a Friday night, I had a banker's bag full of cash from this fundraiser. It was $14,000. And I remember thinking, okay, I can't deposit this at the school until Monday. I just have to hold on to this $14,000 until further notice. And I had this kind of like anxiety of any one of these parents could accuse me of like mishandling the money. And that's how I end up on the news. And my goal in life
Right.
is to only end up on the news for good things and never be on the news for bad things. That's all I want.
Me too.
And so I was like, what if something happens to the money? What if my house burns down? Like all these things that were happening that had no realistic, reality of happening. But my brain started cycling through that. And I said, there has to be a better way for me to not have to handle $14,000 in cash so that I can, still continue working with this team that I love, but not have to deal with the fundraising side of it. So I started kind of noodling on that solution. And then a couple of weeks later, we did a fundraiser where we sold these little ice cream bars. And I had these beautifully printed pieces of paper in which I couldn't read anyone's handwriting. I had to go through them manually one by one. I sat for hours taking things off a piece of paper and putting it into a spreadsheet. And then I
Wow.
discovered, okay, there has to be a better way to do this. So Form Dash was never intended to be a business. It was something that I had set up for myself
Mm-hmm.
to improve my daily experience, to streamline my process, and to create a paper trail so that I could account for every dollar that passed through our program. Over time, other dance coaches, cheer coaches, other people who had to raise money in my circle said, hey, what's this Form Dash thing that you're using? And when I reached out and said, it's nothing, it's just something I built for myself, I don't even worry about it. The reaction for every single one of them was, so can I use it too? So then I had to figure out, how do I
Wow.
monetize this and how do I turn it into a real business? Because it was never intended to be. Just like I never intended to be an entrepreneur, I never intended to build Form Dash. And yet I'm finding success because I'm solving problems that I'm facing rather than just trying to invent a problem.
That's it. And that's exactly how Mom Alicia's got started too. I was pregnant and I started making this prenatal protein powder in my kitchen. And I was just making it for myself. My mom was born with spina bifida, so I was trying to
Mm-hmm.
prevent a birth
Yeah.
defect in my baby. And one of my interns for my film company, his girlfriend was a nutritionist, and she was working with a celebrity client who was also pregnant at the time, who said, "Hey, I want her to make me some of that." And that was the beginning of mom. I looked at my mom. I said, "You're not going to believe who just ordered me to make a special batch of what I was calling Mama's milkshake at the time." And my mom goes, "Amy, you have a product. We need to go find a manufacturer, and we need to go find some capital for this company." And that's exactly what we did. And that was, it's accidental. The
Right.
accidental entrepreneur.
The stuff you never intended to be for anyone else but yourself turns out to be some of your most successful ventures.
Absolutely, because you're just being a problem solver, and here you are now. You're building TruVue, and you're building again something new. What inspired this venture, and what problem are you solving with it?
That original startup that I joined out of college included two college professors. One of them I'm still working with, and I had made a joke that he was never allowed to retire until I could figure out a way to upload his brain to the cloud. And we worked really well together. Our business was created on the idea that you can understand your customers more deeply. You can understand their thoughts, motivations, and desires, and how do you get them to go from, hey, I'm interested in this product, service, whatever, to I'm ready to buy as quickly as possible, right? Giving them the right information at the right time in the right sequence can unlock that process. And so we've been doing that since 2013 when I joined the company. And it's kind of an expensive process. It's really only afforded by the Salesforces of the world, the Ciscos, the JP Morgan Chases, those who have seemingly unlimited budget, right?
Yeah.
And for me as a small business owner, I wanted to figure out how do we unlock access to the same insights and information and accelerators that these big brands have had access to for the last 10 years and make it so brands of any size, whether you are a brand new company or someone more established, as long as you're not Salesforce, you can still have Salesforce level insights. So that's what TruVue is. It is
Yeah.
unlocking everything I've learned about how customers make decisions and putting it at your fingertips, even if you don't have a Salesforce budget.
That's awesome. So it's data.
Yes.
It's a way to analyze data.
Yeah, it's brand new, modern customer intelligence. Not AI because everybody's slapping AI on it, but the fundamentals that power those AI systems that we've all come to know and love,
Mhm.
same fundamental principles here.
How cool. And that's you're really helping to solve a problem that a lot of people have. There's so many companies that aren't in the Fortune 500,
Right.
everyone else.
Pretty much everybody else. And,
Yeah.
they've got access and they can try and they've got the brand name behind them and they've got everything kind of lined up for them when they're these big brand names. But if you are a small company just getting started or trying to scale and grow, you don't have the same ability to take a risk and get it wrong as some of these bigger brands do.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, you don't have the billion-dollar cushion to make mistakes that the other companies have. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah, when you're a little guy, you have to make precision helps, precision decision making, precision communication. If you can bring that to your customer, then you can give them a real advantage. I
Exactly.
love that.
That's what we're trying to do, democratize access to data insights and customer intelligence and strategic decision making.
That's fantastic. Good job. Way to problem solve yet another big problem. Love it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So you were one of the first women in tech to grab a copy of The Manager. Were there any parts that resonated with you or that made you feel seen on your own journey?
You talk about a conversation that you have with your son about burgers and why the world doesn't need more square burgers. And that's always one of the things that I have struggled the most with being a woman in tech, a woman entrepreneur, someone who's trying to grow a business. Because I'll be honest, I love what I'm doing. I love going to work. I have the best time working on my stuff. And I found it really, really hard to balance that relationship of I'm a mother and I'm a business owner and how to still be a parent when I still love my business too. And being able to say out loud, I do love my business and I do love working and I want to do it sometimes. And so I've
Yeah.
had a couple of conversations with my kids because I want to spend time with them. I want to be a good mom, but I also want them to look at me and say, my mom is so cool. She has businesses and she builds things and people believe in her and people respect her. And so I'm trying to figure out that balance between how do we teach them that we're incredible and we're smart and we're talented while giving them what they need to be successful and well-rounded children as well? And so your story about, having that conversation about, yes, it's more economically viable to cut the burgers square instead of round. Well, Wendy's did that how many years ago, made millions of dollars, billions of dollars doing it. Now we have this next conversation of what does it really do for people when it comes to our innovations? Are we doing them simply because we feel like we need to do something, or is there really something here that we are changing or driving forward?
Right. Yeah, finding the mindfulness. It's like I feel like this next generation, if we can teach our children anything, it's mindful entrepreneurship. It's like, yeah, it's cool to make money. It's everybody wants to be a billionaire, but it's like How can we teach our children how to solve problems that need to be solved in order to save humanity, our planet,
Yeah.
that could actually improve life for the people that will be living on this planet 100 years from now? It's like, how can we instill the values of mindfulness into the future of entrepreneurs, into humans? I'm really hoping to inspire a whole generation of young people who can really maximize their potential in a way that's not just about how much money you have in the bank, but about your human potential as how we can influence the happiness and the quality of life of all of the beings that we're going to share the planet with in the future. There's this deeper thing now.
Well, my son is 10. We were kind of talking in the pre-conversation, and he's 10. So he's just starting to get to that like understanding that he wants to buy things, and that takes money, and that to get money we have to do some work and we have to do some things. And one of the things we struggle with him is he wants to monetize everything.
Mhm.
So he wanted to set up a YouTube channel so that he could stream himself playing, video games so that he could monetize video games. And he wanted me to record him playing baseball so he could post it on his YouTube channel. And it just became every part of his life was what he sees on YouTube, which is these people like Mr. Beast and Malia who are YouTube streamers.
Yep, I
And
know them.
he wants to be just like them. And I had to
Mhm.
explain to him that most people don't make their money that way. And if you're going to create videos, I am totally supportive of you. But let's make sure they're videos that we're proud of, that the production quality is good, that it's not just another like brain rot thing, and understand who we're making these videos for. So maybe I'm a little bit crazy, but I've been taking him through the process of like, who is going to watch your videos? Is it kids your age who are looking for age appropriate content? Is it kids who want to learn how to do something? Is it just people who want background noise and want kind of that background noise on your YouTube channel? And then teaching him how to record in OBS and how to edit his videos and how to add thumbnails and do SEO optimization. So I'm like, if we're going to do this, which it's a 10-year-old's little fantasy right now. But if we're going to
Yeah.
do it, we should do it in a way that you learn some skills that are valuable to you beyond just making Fortnite YouTube videos.
I love that, mom. Way to go. Yeah, and you're teaching him a real skill too. I mean, the future is video. I mean, it really is in a way that when I went to film school, I never would have thought that the future was going to be this video heavy. I really didn't think it would be. I never would have imagined that you'd be shooting a podcast like this, and there'd be so much software and so much technology around creating and capturing video content. As most creators are creating in video content, and you're giving him great data because you're coming from the mom, you're coming from your business mind of, okay, who's your demographic, kid?
Right. Right. Who are we targeting? And I've
Yeah.
also noticed he's just so comfortable on camera,
Yeah.
where I feel like my
Great.
generation, I'm a millennial. I think we're super awkward because we didn't grow up in a world with a camera shoved in our face. And
Yeah,
all of our things that we posted on MySpace were pictures, and it's all gone now. So, we don't have to look back and cringe at ourselves.
it's
But
true.
he is so comfortable and not concerned. And my hope is that he goes into, the next generation of the workforce with these skills,
Yeah.
because I think they're going to be more important and vital than ever before. Being able to connect in this virtual, digital, remote environment, whether you're recording a podcast, recording content for TikTok, or just having a Zoom meeting,
Yeah.
this is the way the world communicates now.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. And it's just good job, mama. Good job. Way to teach him some real life skills. I feel like we have to, it's our duty as modern mothers to help our children navigate the technology that's at their fingertips now. And it's one of the things that sometimes they're doing it at school, but sometimes they're not. And, at fully embracing the technology as it's coming at them. And I think that that's one of the things that we can do as future moms is help them navigate, navigating technology in the way that we, embrace it, but then we also create boundaries around it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, let's, the way you're teaching him, yeah, it can't just be about the money, dude. It's got to be about more.
Well, and boundaries are a good point, right? Because
Mhm.
if he had his way, he would be on some form of technology screen something 24/7. And so we've had to balance his interest in it, right?
Yeah.
And and what we know is good for him, which is being well-rounded and well-developed, and not just good at screen and tech things, but good at sports and good at keeping, thinking about his food and keeping up with his chores and trying to create someone who is going to function well and bring value to society when
Yeah.
it's time for him to enter society and do something that matters and not just exist in society, but drive it forward.
Yeah. Yeah, 1,000% couldn't agree more. I feel like I'm struggling and up against the same thing with my kids, and the book that I'm writing right now is actually for more focused on the young adult, and it's about maximizing your potential in this technological future that we're moving into. And it's really something that is inspired by my 10 to 16-year-old boys, because I have a 10-year-old, almost 11, a 13, and a 16. And it's like, okay, how am I going to help these kids learn? Because if you're not using the technology is using you.
Yes. And if you don't
And
understand when you sign up
mhm,
for a website, if it's free, it's all you're the product there. And if you don't understand when I spend, $5.34 on Robux, that is not coming back to you, and like all of those things that go into it and how to be safe on the internet, right?
yes,
Um, and there's so much there. I think that book is going to be very important, especially as parents who maybe remember what the world was like before the internet and before cell phones, try to navigate raising kids who aren't fully sucked into the metaverse and are
yeah.
ready to function in society.
Yeah, I mean, our kids also need to know how to do dishes and do laundry and keep their rooms picked
Right.
up and how to feed themselves actual food. I feel like there's such a push for them to eat ultra processed food and
Yep.
just sit on a screen all day long, and you're fighting the machine that's teaching these really bad behaviors to our children. It's like that we have to remind them that they still have to function IRL too.
But to your point, like teaching them how to use these technologies to their best advantage, right? So
That's
going
right.
back to my 10-year-old, he will take my phone, and he's very proud of this. He will take my phone and he'll take a picture of our fridge on the inside and send it to ChatGPT and say, "What should we have for dinner?" And like he likes to help me cook it, but we integrate that technology experience of having ChatGPT figure out what we should be eating based on the ingredients that we have, and then him actually taking that out of the fridge and following along with the experiment that ChatGPT gave us in order to cook dinner. And he's found that really exciting. And from my perspective, it's teaching him to use the technology in new and creative ways. He uses it to
Definitely.
do his SEO content for his YouTube videos, right?
Yep.
Um, but within the bounds of me making sure that he understands that this is a tool to help you be smarter, but you still have to think critically. You
Yeah.
can't just follow. Because we made a recipe one time that ChatGPT suggested, and it was terrible. It was so disgusting. And he was like, "Oh, that was bad." I'm like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
AI doesn't
Yeah.
always get it right. Sometimes
Yeah.
AI is wrong." And so it was a
Well, it
great
doesn't have
lesson.
taste buds. It's not a human, you know?
Yeah, it was supposed to be some kind of like one pot pasta with sausage, but the pasta we had was like a chickpea pasta, and it like what turned to mush. It was disgusting. And yeah, he was like, "Well, I'm never gonna do that again." I'm like, "No, no, no. Now we have to use our critical thinking skills to say that chickpea pasta is gonna turn to mush. We can't use chickpea pasta. Maybe we try something else, like rice instead."
That's that's a good point, mom. Yeah, exactly. I think sometimes when ChatGPT is wrong, it's also an important lesson for the kids, because sometimes it will take you all completely on the wrong path, and it's we still have to use critical thinking. And even when we're using AI, it seems smarter than us, but it really isn't.
Yeah,
Not
it's
always.
as of now, it's still
Yeah.
a tool
Yeah.
and not something that's going to replace us. So
Yeah, exactly. So a core theme in my book is that invisible work is leadership. How do you see that play out in your own life as a founder and a mom and a creative?
I think that I embody that 100%, almost to a fault. So I always tell people that I'm terrible at delegation. I am not terrible at delegation because I believe that I can do it better than anyone else, or that I should do it because I want it done right the first time. It has nothing to do with that. And I discovered that about myself, in the last year or so. I am horrible at delegation because I am the only martyr on the team. I am the only one that gets to ruin my weekend. I am the only one that gets to have their weekend ruined. And I discovered that all of that invisible work that I was doing, the stress and the thought and the process and everything that I was killing myself for and depriving my team of, and I use deprive very deliberately
Yeah.
because they want to help and they want to be a part of it. They want the work to be visible and to be a
Mm-hmm.
part of it.
Yeah.
But that's because I've done, frankly, not to toot my own horn, but a great job building people who want to build with me, who want to do things with me. All of that background stuff, all that invisible work that I've done has to do more with the relationships that I've built, and they want to come along on this journey and not let me just be the only martyr on the team.
Absolutely. I love that. And I feel the same way when I translate that into my household. That's what I've been working on lately is like, how can I make my invisible work in the house more visible so that my teammates, my husband, and my older children can help me so I don't have to carry the cross around the house? It's like, how can I communicate what I'm
Yeah.
doing visibly so that everyone can chip in. On this trip, I'm on vacation in Hawaii, and on this trip, I taught my boys how to do laundry. I'm like, you guys are old enough. Check this out. It's a machine. Some man designed it.
Right.
You don't have to. The woman doesn't have to walk down to the river anymore and clean the laundry on the rock. It's like you just take your clothes and you put it in this cool machine and you press a button and bada bing. It's like they're like, Mom, this is so cool.
Right.
My 13-year-old comes up, Mom, I just did another load of laundry. I'm like, yeah, man, all I had to do was teach him how to fish, teach him how to
Right.
do laundry.
Well, and how much of that too, I just had this conversation with one of my business partners that we as a team need to have more audacity, right? And you see like, oh my God, the audacity. And it's like, yeah, the audacity. Some of these men that I see out there building businesses similar to mine are building it and they have half as much intellectual property, half as much experience, if not less. And
Mm-hmm.
they're getting more attention and more opportunities simply because they are asking for it. This
Yes.
revolutionary idea of asking people to
Yeah.
support you, to try it out, to do these things. And I said, I need to have more audacity because I go through this whole process of, well, I have to build a relationship and I have to build up my profile on LinkedIn. I have to make sure that I've communicated with them and let them know that I'm smart and talented and intelligent and I have their best interests at heart. And then maybe I'll ask them to check out my product. And meanwhile, the men who are trying to do the same thing that I am have skipped past all of that nonsense and gone straight to the audacious ask. And I think that that's a lot of where that invisible work comes from is we think that the world will pick up what we're putting down and will understand the signals we are putting out into the universe. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that we are the main characters of our own story. We are sub characters, if even, of other people's stories. So if we don't step into frame
Yeah.
and join the conversation and make the obvious ask, people
Mm-hmm.
are not going to pick up our hints or our signals. Just like my husband doesn't pick up the hint to make the bed in the morning unless I ask him.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like this is where we're really coming into. I feel like this book was really a conversation about having a conversation. It's like, why aren't we talking about this? Why is this invisible work uncommunicated work? Like what the heck is going on here? Why can't I say like, is then no one else going to do the dishes? Is it just me? Like, why am I the only one doing this?
Right.
But it's the
Right.
same thing in the office. It's, you have to watch. Netta was a guest. Her episode came out this week, which is May 16th. Today, her episode comes out. But she wrote two books. They're bestsellers. One's called Rise Up for You, and the other one's called Emotional Intelligence. But she talks about how women are usually like A plus student versus a man going for the same job would be at a D plus. But even though they lack the knowledge, they have this, even though they're lacking, they're
Yeah.
still overcompensating with confidence.
Yeah.
So
They
I
have
thought
the
that was,
audacity. They
yeah,
have the
they have the
audacity to do
audacity.
it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's what I think we as
Yeah.
women have to figure out is
Yeah.
how do we, one, find
Yeah.
it in ourselves, and how do we two drag it out of others? Because I know
Yes.
there's incredible women in my network who are too afraid to speak about their own incredible talents and achievements and what they're great at. And so I think we as women have to be okay speaking on behalf of others that we care about. I'm going to sit there and say, Amy's incredible. She's doing all of these incredible things. Have you heard about her book? It is all about what it takes to be the manager of yourself and make invisible work visible, right? And if we're not going to sing our own praises, then we need to build a circle of women who will sing praises on our behalf and be our
That's what
advocates in the
this
room.
podcast is all about. It's like, how can I
Exactly.
put women on a pedestal and say, hey, check these girls out. These girls are badasses. They've taken risks. They've made serious changes in the world. Everybody found their own song to sing in their own way. No one's imitating anyone else. Everyone's just being authentically them and seeing the problems that they see in the world and solving them. And I think that's the beauty. I think that's like the real superpower of women, is that we have the ability to problem solve things. We've been doing it in our homes for millennia. And that's how we as mindful entrepreneurs will come and change the world in a major way. And we already are.
I agree 100%.
Let's talk about the humor piece. Your LinkedIn intro is hilarious. You talk about being a notorious plant killer. Now, how has this mindset helped you navigate chaos with business and/or parenting?
I had someone once tell me, I think they came on my podcast, and they talked about we've turned LinkedIn into this place where it's just our resume and it's so austere and everyone is just out here promoting something. But people buy from people, and if you want to understand what they believe in, you have to say it out loud. At the time, I think my headline on LinkedIn was something like, I help people predict their customers' next move, or something like that, right? Something boring and non-specific. I mean, specific to my business, but not specific to me as an individual. I sat down and I looked around my office, and I was one of those people without fail. I would bring home a plant because I desperately want to be good at this, but I am not. So I've subscribed to one of those plant of the month clubs where they send you a plant every month, and they're supposed to be unkillable. Well, I
Hmm.
managed to kill every single plant that came to my house, including an aloe, which is supposed to be like set it and forget it, but clearly it's never, met me. And one of those things is that you have to learn, and one of the things that I learned is that, look, I might be the problem. It might be the environment. I might be neglecting my plant. I might be overwatering my plant. But regardless, my plant is dying. And so something isn't right. And so as I was working through how do I get my plants to stay alive, because it's COVID and it's 2020 and I'm bored, and go through that process while still reflecting on that, like, there are things that we can do in life. You can do all of the right things. You can follow all of the instructions. You can download all of the apps to change your life. Sometimes things just don't work out, and it might have nothing to do with you, although I think plant killing does have to do with me. It's a pattern now. But it might have nothing to do with you, and it might be more about just the situation you're in, the environment, the way the world is structured. And you can either sit there and cry about the plant that's dead on the windowsill, or you can move on and decide to either A, stop buying plants, or B, keep buying plants, whatever makes you happy.
Absolutely. Or just subscribe to the Plant of the Month Club and throw the old one out. Put the new one in the window. Huh?
That is what happened for about a year. And then I was like, I'm going to be done with this. I'm going to go buy the cheap ones from the box store next door. And if they die, then I don't feel as bad.
I don't know if you guys have Trader Joe's out where you are, but that's the answer to me being a plant killer. Like, they
I just,
always look so good.
I will buy, like, I'll buy an orchid, even though I have no business owning an orchid. They're hard to keep alive. I do have a bird of paradise that is still currently alive. So we'll see how much longer that lasts. So
Nice. Good for you. Good for you. I
I
used to
know.
be really good with plants, but then I had all these kids, and now I'm like, I'm sorry to the plants, and I definitely cannot say yes to pets, because I don't think that I'm in a place to care for anything else at this point in my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. I get
Like,
that 100%.
it's a bad idea.
But good
So
on
tell me.
you for prioritizing.
I'm like, I prioritize the children in my house, especially the small ones,
Yes.
because they need
Yes.
so much. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old still.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I thought you just had the 10,
Oh,
14, and
no.
16.
No. 2, 4, 10, 13, 15, and the oldest, who's my stepdaughter, she's 26, and she has 2 kids.
Oh my God, you're going straight to heaven. I think you're a saint. I couldn't even imagine. That's
It's a
wild.
lot of people. It's a lot.
There's
It's a
a
lot of
lot of
people.
people to keep alive. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then my kids are like, "Can we get a dog?" I'm like, "I don't think that's a good idea, guys."
No, we have a dog, but I only have 2 children, and we got the dog when they were old enough to understand that like the dog has needs too. So
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh, no, totally. I think maybe when a few of my birds fly the nest and my littles are bigger, there's a possibility. I definitely
yeah.
love baby everything. We found a baby dove at the beach the other day, here on the island, and it was like my husband was like, "Oh no, here we go. Like we're gonna end up with a dove for the rest of the trip." But fortunately, we found somebody who does bird rescue here. Otherwise, I would have brought the little thing home with me and, bottle fed the thing or whatever I'm
Yeah, it
supposed
would
to
have been
do.
great.
I was like, "Ooh, I don't know though. Am I gonna be able to keep this one alive this time? I don't know."
Yeah.
Real quick, tell me about your 2 podcasts, just so I can plug it real quick before we
Yeah.
wrap up.
So I have 2 podcasts. The first one is called Taking Back Monday, and it is the idea that work can be this thing that we love and that we enjoy, and that we can say goodbye to the Sunday scaries if only we and the people in our circle have the courage to do so. It's primarily targeted at leaders who want to create high-performing teams, because it's my belief that if people care about what they're doing, if they find value and they understand that they are valued, that they will do great work and you will have a high-performing team. So that is Taking Back Monday. That podcast actually started, I tell people, as a way for me to get over my severe imposter syndrome. I mentioned my company got acquired. I worked for another company for a while, and I just discovered that over the course of those 3 years, I had started to contract myself and be
Mhm.
smaller. And now that I was back out on my own, I had to get better at this kind of environment, talking to a camera, looking straight into a lens.
Yeah.
And so I started the podcast to practice, discovered I loved the process and loved the experience. And we're just launching, I think we're at like episode 60 or something like that.
That's amazing.
So we're really excited about that. And then the second podcast I started, oh goodness, it's been about 3 months now. And it is about the future of customer relationships, how we build them, how we keep them, and how we lead as customer expectations rapidly evolve. And that's where I interview thought leaders in customer experience, customer success, sales,
Oh,
marketing,
great.
basically anybody whose job it is to tell the story of their brand, to build relationships with customers, and to keep customers coming back. And that one is called The Growth Signal.
That is so cool. And where can we watch them? Everywhere?
Everywhere great podcasts are found, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
That's amazing. What's a recent moment that reminded you, "Yes, I'm doing the work I meant to do"? Last question.
Oh, that's a hard one. When you start a new company, a tech company especially, you begin the process of deciding, am I going to bootstrap this, or am I going to go out and try to find someone to cut me a check and become an investor and put some capital behind this? And I don't have the exact statistic, but it's like a very small percentage of capital and VC funding goes to women-owned businesses.
Yeah,
Like some staggering number.
3%.
Okay, I was going to say it's got to be like less than 5%.
Yeah, it is.
3%. And yet we know that women-owned businesses perform better on the whole, on average,
Mhm.
and that women-owned businesses grow faster and are more likely to be in business 10 years
Mhm.
later, and are more likely to have a high-performing team behind them. And yet they are less likely to get acquired for
Mhm.
high valuations. They are less likely to have access to capital, and they are more likely to have to take on personal financial input in order to grow. And so as I was going through this process of trying to find an investor and trying to convince people that I wasn't just this little girl from Iowa who is trying to build a tech company that's ready to compete with the big dogs, but I had these conversations with people who would tell me things like, we like you and we like you as a founder, but your idea too competitive, or I don't understand it, or it's not for me, or it's not in my vertical, or you have to have all of this money before we can actually give you more money, right? Chicken and the
Mhm.
egg.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so as I'm going through that process, you start to get beat down, right?
Yeah.
Rejection after rejection after rejection. And yeah, I came across a couple of people that I've been talking to, and we're still in talks, so can't give much details there. But one of the things they said to me was that moment of, okay, you see me. And they said, Alyssa, we think you are a brilliant founder. You're clearly a visionary and you've built an incredible team. So if you say this idea is good and it works, then we believe you. And that's all I've ever wanted, was someone to look at me and say, I might not understand what you're trying to do, but I believe in you.
Yeah, that's huge. That's it. That's all you need. If they believe in you, you're good to go. If you can find people with money, that was what happened with Mamalicious. Was we were able to. I had just given birth to Gabriel. He was 1 month old, and my founder wrote me $100,000 check that month, and I was like, "Yay! I'm gonna start a company with a
With a
newborn
newborn.
baby." Okay, here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's go. And then we went, man. I just strapped that baby on and we're going to all the conventions and doing all the things. I'm like, okay, let's go. You do what you got to do.
Perfect little marketing mascot there, right?
Exactly. You just strap them on at some point, But yeah, thank you, Alyssa, so much for being here, for sharing your story, your sense of humor, and your brilliance with our community. Your path from coach to tech CEO proves that leadership is often born in unexpected places. If you've loved this conversation, you can find Alyssa's work at TruVue or catch her on her podcast, Taking Back Monday and The Growth Signal. And if you haven't already, grab a copy of my book, The Manager, just like Alyssa did. It's all about discovering your strength in your systems, your story, and your invisible labor. You might just find the confidence to start building what's been on your heart all along. Thank you so much, Alyssa, and have a fantastic day.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye-bye. Talk soon.